Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney panics as investors realize streaming can't save Disney. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from the New York Post, this Bob Iger comment tells you all you need to know about the sorry state of Disney. You know what Walt Disney never ever said? That he was proud of the IP that we are mining. Because Walt Disney was not, so far as anyone's aware, an alien robot hell-bent on intergalactic domination. He was a creative genius. What is the focus at Disney? What is the strategy there? What are they hoping to accomplish? As near as we can tell, the entire strategy of Disney is this. From Breitbart, 71% want Disney to end the LGBT agenda as their brand is in free fall. And here's some more Disney strategy from The Hollywood Reporter. Disney looking selectively at licensing more content. In the past, CEO Bob Iger disregarded the idea, saying he thought it would be like selling nuclear weapons technology to a third world country, and now they're using it against us. But he's looking selectively at it. How is that strategically good for Disney to sell part of their library? Because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they're going to do better by holding back on licensing their TV shows and movies to other streaming services and other platforms and other channels, or if they should just keep it for themselves. The real answer with whether or not they should do it would tie in with what their overall strategy was, but they're not focused on that. So it's actually impossible to know whether or not it's actually a good idea. Generally, probably it is a good idea, but they've got other things to worry about. From Business Insider, Disney's streaming slowdown is all anyone on Wall Street cares about. From The Wrap Pro, Wall Street turns its back on Disney's streaming profit milestone. While the company turned a corner, Wall Street doesn't see growth for Disney. They don't see how the company is going to be significantly bigger and more profitable, let's say in the next 5 years, than it is now. It might grow. It might actually collapse in that time. Disney stock in the last 5 years is down over 21%. Netflix in the last 5 years is up over 70%. And Netflix continues to grow. Netflix has also had its ups and downs. But people understand where Netflix's future is. And they're actually making a profit on streaming. Disney claims they're no longer losing billions of dollars on streaming. But they're certainly not making billions of dollars on streaming, while direct competitor Netflix is making billions of dollars on streaming. From The Wrap Pro, with the lingering impacts of the Hollywood strike still weighing on its studios, Disney turned a quarterly profit of $47 million with Disney Plus and Hulu, the first time those two entertainment streamers ended a quarter in the black. Yet despite hitting the milestone 2 quarters ahead of schedule and trimming its overall streaming losses by 97%, Wall Street punished Disney stock, sending shares down more than 9%. So what's going on? Disney can only declare a streaming profit without including ESPN Plus, which continues to struggle, losing $65 million in the quarter. And Disney said its overall streaming business would still be unprofitable in the next quarter, and not truly turn the corner until the fourth quarter, or more likely even next year. You notice how Netflix is just Netflix? They can always sell more Netflix, they can increase Netflix, they can get more distribution for Netflix. But Disney here is struggling marketing Disney Plus, marketing Hulu, ESPN Plus. Disney is adding a tile for ESPN on Disney Plus. Disney will add ESPN tile to Disney Plus this year. The tile will feature select live games as well as studio programming to watch within Disney Plus. Okay, sure, if Disney Plus is a big platform and they're trying to do more with ESPN, they can promote ESPN through Disney Plus, as long as it doesn't violate any of their other contracts. But do you see how complex this gets? They're marketing ESPN Plus, they're marketing Disney Plus, they're marketing Hulu. They're also now distributing Disney Plus through Charter's cable system for free. It becomes incredibly convoluted and complicated. And if they really can't manage one streaming service well, how are they going to manage 3 or more streaming services well? Investors aren't stupid and they've been catching on. Some analysts also pointed to a new reality setting in for Disney. The once high-flying company, which was a hit machine in the heyday of Marvel superhero fever, may be settling into a sustained period of slower but steady growth. Disney itself really can't even actually tell you what you should be enthusiastic about with respect to their company. Maybe they won't lose billions on streaming. Maybe they'll actually be able to operate it at a small profit or a break even. Okay, but how is that going to replace all the revenue you used to get through cable channels? What about the movies? What about the brands? All Disney can point to is say, look, we're going to grow our theme parks. And even Bob Iger admits here, quote, we've said all along our path to profitability will not be linear, Disney CEO Bob Iger told analysts on Tuesday. While we're anticipating a softer third quarter, due in part to the seasonality of our Indian sports offerings, we fully expect streaming to be a growth driver for the company in the future, and we have prioritized the steps necessary to achieve this. And when Iger says here our path to profitability will not be linear, he means it won't be a straight line, but you could also assume maybe he means linear TV because they also own linear channels, as their cable channel business continues to shrink. Overall, Disney swung to a quarterly loss of $20 million, down from a profit of $1.2 billion in last year's fiscal second quarter. That was in large part due to restructuring charges of $2 billion related to its struggling Star India subsidiary and entertainment linear networks. There's that word linear again. The $2 billion restructuring charge related to Star India has to do with Disney selling its Star India business or a percentage of it to another investor in India. They got that business as part of the deal with Fox when they acquired Fox years ago. They lost more than $2 billion on that deal. They lost at least $5 billion on that deal. But they've got a great CFO, and Bob Iger loves to play around with the numbers. So certainly he told his CFO, look, what's the smallest amount of money we can report this quarter? Let's report something, but let's continue to keep the rest to play with the numbers in the future. The value of Star India has dropped precipitously. Iger has been trying to prove that he has the right streaming strategy in place. But Disney, like its rivals, is cranking up the Dream Factory again after losing half a year to the Hollywood strikes. The studio released no significant film titles during the quarter, and only one Marvel movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, will hit theaters this summer. Disney has the added pressure of being in the middle of a much-needed shift in its film strategy from an endless superhero multiverse to one focused on quality over quantity. That means fewer new movies and less fresh content to feed its streamers. Still, Iger is preaching patience, aggressively cutting costs and improving margins, while tweaking the content machine, which could position it for better long-term growth, according to analysts. But what's the growth strategy? Cutting costs is not a growth strategy. Cutting costs is a profitability strategy. And yes, Disney's costs absolutely needed aggressive cuts. But cutting isn't the same thing as growing. But while some Disney investors expected more fireworks, particularly on the future guidance front, I think this report indicates that the company has tilted its operation back to its core business model, which is more conservative by nature. According to Thomas Monteiro, a senior analyst at investing.com, the company said that it plans to prioritize other parts of its empire that are more consistently driving growth. Disney's experiences segment, the theme parks and cruises business, which represent 38% of overall revenues, had a solid quarter, with revenues up 10% and operating income up 12%. The company touted a healthy expansion of margins as it squeezes more out of each customer through higher average ticket prices. Disney expects robust operating income growth at experiences for the full year. In particular, new CFO Hugh Johnston noted, Disney's cruise business is one that has an enormous number of opportunities for us over time, and that's why we are leaning more heavily into that business. Supposedly, streaming is the future for Disney and now represents 28% of Disney's overall revenues, though thus far, none of its profits. Weighing down Disney's overall streaming business is its sports app ESPN+, which continues to disappoint. Disney plans to launch a fully direct-to-consumer version of ESPN in fall 2025 and a joint sports streaming venture with Warner Bros. Discovery and Fox this fall. And it plans to launch an ESPN tile on Disney Plus by the end of the calendar year following its integration of Hulu. Star India continues to hurt its overall sports business. This quarter, the subsidiary lost money, $27 million versus $99 million in the year-ago period, a 73% improvement, but it's still a money loser. Disney said its performance is tied to the cost of broadcast cricket matches in India, a very popular thing in India. Star India's impairment charge was a result of Disney entering into an $8.5 billion deal with Reliance Industries to merge the Indian property with Viacom 18 in a joint venture. The deal, which is expected to close by early 2025, will give Reliance and its affiliates a 63% ownership stake in the venture, with Disney retaining 37%. There's also no escaping that Disney's linear TV networks continue to be an irreversible drag on their earnings. The networks, which include ABC, FX, and National Geographic, saw operating income plummet another 22% to $752 million on sales of $2.7 billion, or 12.5% of the company's total revenues. Bob Iger says that Shogun is a global hit on both linear and streaming and is tracking as FX's most watched show ever on streaming platforms. The limited series is driving the second largest number of signups to the streaming services since 2022, behind Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, another movie that should never have been made until they recast Black Panther so they could continue his story. That was World of Wakanda, and was a disappointing follow-up to the successful Black Panther movie. There were some positive signs coming from some of the TV studios, but even as Iger has survived a recent activist shareholder revolt, investors were looking for more clarity on long-delayed succession plans for Iger, whose contract runs through the end of 2026. According to Iger, a board of directors succession planning committee is meeting on a regular basis. He says he's confident they'll choose the right person in time. The reason they're having such a hard time trying to figure out who the successor to Bob Iger is going to be at Disney is because Disney doesn't really know what its strategy is. It's in multiple different businesses. It does have assets like its TV and film libraries. It could be licensing to other platforms, streaming services, cable channels, broadcast channels, domestically, internationally. It could be doing more of that, but it would have to be part of an overall strategy for how they're going to market their content in the future. And it doesn't seem like they have any kind of coherent strategy. Disney has turned itself into a propaganda factory where it used to be like a dream factory. There's no leadership, there's no strategy, there's no focus. Bob Iger went on to say, and the IP that we're mining, including all the sequels that we're doing, is second to none. Forget quote when you wish upon a star. Now it's when you drill upon IP. Even though Marvel Studios, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and many other Disney properties have wobbled in the past few years with uninspired retreads that the ticket-buying public has given the cold shoulder to, the clueless executive is still laser-focused on more sequels and universes. A company that was once the bastion of newness, talent, and innovation has become a bunch of talking trademarks. Quote, we had gone through a period where our original films and animation, both Disney and Pixar, were dominating, Iger said. We're now swinging back a bit to lean on sequels. In just this year alone, theaters will get Inside Out 2, Moana 2, and Mufasa the Lion King. Then in 2025, there's Zootopia 2, and in 2026 comes Toy Story 5. Everywhere you look, there are numbers and colons. And if the situation couldn't get any bleaker, while all those familiar follow-ups are being pumped out, Disney will also deliver live-action remakes of Snow White and the first Moana. Meanwhile, over at Mopey Marvel, which has had embarrassing misfires with the Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Iger said the brilliant strategy there is to simply do fewer projects because that will just fix everything. They aim to, quote, decrease volume and go to probably about 2 TV series a year instead of what had become 4, and reduce their film output from maybe 4 a year to 2, or a maximum of 3. Disney's major problem is their focus is on just pushing an agenda. It's not a focus on business. It's actually disturbing to do video after video about Disney. I've done many videos about Disney now, and I am very interested in the subject. But I look at their business and I say, I don't understand why, if you're focused on streaming, why aren't you doing more with that Charter deal, that cable company that Disney Plus is being distributed free on? That really looks like it's going to be the future. They can't offer a deal like that to Charter and not offer a deal like that to other cable companies. The other cable companies are going to expect a similar deal. Charter also is going to have access to ESPN Plus. That was part of the deal. So why aren't they talking about how they're coordinating all this? Disney completely lacks strategic focus. It's disorienting to follow this company. They don't even have a message talking about how in 5 years investors could realistically expect growth, because there's nothing to grow. They don't have leadership now under Bob Iger. And they certainly don't have a CEO picked out to follow any kind of strategy after Bob Iger leaves. They need to have a CEO in place absolutely latest 1 year before Bob Iger leaves, because they're supposed to work together to transition. Not their genders, but to transition the roles. It's not just for Disney, that's what you do with a CEO position, especially in a big public company. It's almost impossible to take Disney seriously as a business because they're not taking their business seriously, only their agenda. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.